Hey, it's Jeff. Welcome back. Let's get started. Okay. Now our queen is attacked on b6. And the knight's pinned there, but I don't think we have time to do anything about it. Or does something like knight takes e4. Because knight takes e4, rook takes b6, knight takes d2. But that's probably, I don't know, because do we get this bishop check with bishop takes d4 at some point? I'm not really visualizing that position. I'm just saying some moves, but feeling a little bit rusty right now. But okay, so let's see. Their king looks pretty safe. The only thing is we do have this pin, like I said, along this diagonal. And knight e4 is an active move attacking their queen and does have the threat, if their queen is gone, to do that check, picking up the knight. Taking on b3 with the queen doesn't look too good. Taking the c6 pawn with the queen doesn't look good. Going queen c5, I feel like they might have time to consolidate, plus they do have this passed c pawn, which could be annoying. So other than all of that, it really does seem like knight e4 should be looked at more. If I had to guess, I would just guess that move maybe. Especially because, like, after knight takes c4, if knight takes e4 back, so knight g to knight g takes e4, we could take here with check on d4, and then after the queen takes, this rook would be undefended, and we could take with the queen. So then let's see what happens in that initial line I was talking about, but couldn't visualize. So knight takes e4, rook takes b6, knight takes d2, rook takes b8, and then bishop takes, and then recapture the rook. The question is, what's the material count there? I am not good enough to know that immediately, but I feel like I should. That's a skill that I should have if I want to be stronger, I feel. I think I remember this visualization exercise book. I didn't really read it, but a lot of the problems were they give you a sequence of moves, and then your task is just to say, what's the material count, pretty much. So it seems like I've hit a limit of amount of moves where I'm not entirely sure. But let's see, but I think we took like a queen, a rook, and a pawn, and a knight. That's like 18, and we gave up a queen and a rook, I guess. So yeah, that has to be more. Anyway, I don't see any other good moves in the position, so I'm gonna play it anyway. Yeah, it was that. And so now, before we just make an immediate move, a lot of times I'll just make an immediate move and get it wrong. But I'm gonna just recheck it here since we got it right, and it'll be easier to visualize at this point. So we take a queen, they take the rook on b8, we take the knight with check, and then recapture the rook, and we're maintaining our minor pieces, and we have an extra rook. And yeah, so here you don't want to take on b8, you take this knight. Okay. Alright, so we got it right. And this one, I would say it's kind of simple if, well, one, if you see knight e4 as a possibility, like, okay, your queen is attacked. That's what they did with their last move. They moved the knight out the way so it's attacking the queen. But you can, but once you get past that you can do this attack on their queen, all it becomes is like a series of like very forcing moves, and you just have to figure out, are you winning in the end? So visualization was the hardest part for me personally. Let's see analysis board and mistakes. Now, queen takes d4. Oh well, 3 rook takes b8 played 1,000 times. Oh, they went for the rook. 1, 2. See, a lot of people went for this rook here, and it's really just a factor of seeing that when you see a good move, look for a better one. This rook will still be here if you pick up this knight with check. So once you see that, it's immediately obvious that rook takes b8 immediately is wrong. And so yeah, you just want to see all your candidate moves. And it is a kind of a shame when you do get like so far. You find the difficult knight takes e4, and you do this idea, but then you don't see like the last little wrinkle in what you have to do. So yeah, so that's just finding candidate moves for yourself and within the variation. Like, because when before I played knight takes e4, I kind of had an idea that we might be able to pick up that knight for free in the end in that way. But again, like I said, after I played knight takes e4 at first, and I didn't take the queen immediately, although I should have, and then thought more on this move if I want to recheck things, because there really is not going to be anything else other than taking the queen back, I feel. But just doing that, like, extra check just not to rush and see what's going on really helps a lot. Because you see a lot of people didn't do that and played rook takes b8 immediately, or a fresh look at the position to see, is there anything that I'm missing that's like very obvious and basic? And then you would immediately see, like just by looking at all your legal moves, you would see that this is definitely the way to go before doing this. Okay, so that was the first mistake, and we have queen takes d4 move 1 played 500 times. Okay, so what was that? Queen takes d4. Okay, so this gives up the queen, but it's not like we have a check that can win the queen back or anything. And maybe, so you're giving up the queen for a rook and a minor piece. And I guess in that situation, it's not as good here. One way you can kind of tell is that rook is 5 and this is 3, so that's 8 versus 9. So that's already like an alarm bell to not really go for it. It's even shaky if you'd want to give up the queen for 2 rooks. Like in some situations it might be good, in some situations it might be bad, but I'm not exactly sure when you would pick one or the other. I just have a preference for having a queen in some situations, but I think there are a lot of situations where it's actually better to have the 2 rooks. So that's just something that you would have to learn with experience and reading more books. But even in the situation where queen versus 2 rooks, you which is actually what we have here. Sometimes they're just really tricky. Plus, because there's like a pawn difference if you count the material, it's not going to be a solution to a chess tempo problem to just get that material balance. Plus, I guess the main factor here is that they have this passed pawn that's kind of annoying too, and a good bishop that can help. So yeah, and then as always, once you see like a better move in a position or a better idea, then it's very clear that what you were going for wouldn't gain that much material in the end. And okay, so queen takes b3 was also played on move 1. Queen takes b3. This one also, for a similar reason, you pretty much get the same position, just about. Maybe there's a slight difference. I don't remember what the other position was. Maybe the rook was here, maybe the rook was somewhere else. But we do have these 2 rooks versus a queen, and we still have these 2 minor pieces versus 2 minor pieces, and they have this passed pawn. So that's another way that you can eliminate both of these moves, is that they lead to the same position. And so if two moves are about to do the same thing, then they're probably wrong. Or usually in a tactic where you know there's only one right solution, it means there's something wrong with one of the moves. And so if you can't find anything wrong with either of the moves, then that's an indication that they both might be wrong. That's if you're doing problems with no alts. But like on chess.com or Elite Chess, or you do the setting on ChessTempo where you don't get alts. So yeah, so it seems like taking here, they both lead to a similar situation. Yeah, they get this position here, or this. And the only difference is the queen is on d2 here instead of d4. So you just get some normal endgame position. Okay, let's try another one. Let's see, I feel like my luck could start running out here. But they do have the king on the same, I always forget, Fowler rank, second rank. Yeah, on the second rank. What I want to do is get this queen out the way so I could take this bishop. Don't want to accidentally mouse it. I did that before in the previous video. It might not even be on my channel anymore, but it was pretty funny when it happened. Well, funny after the fact. So bishop c3 is the first move I look at if I'm trying to draw the queen away. But I don't know if it works. I don't think it does. Because the queen is the only piece guarding c3 in that point, and they have a queen and a rook guarding, so they could just take. Okay, so that doesn't seem to work. What about rook b1? And then if the queen moves out the way, we have queen f1, and then king h2, queen h1 checkmate. Not queen g1 because the knight's guarding. But if we can play rook b1 and the queen moves to like, actually the queen almost looks trapped. But if the queen could move somewhere safe, let's say the queen could move to b7, then we would have that two-move checkmate. But after rook b1, it does look like they can block on c1. And the question is, are there any follow-ups after that? I don't know. Another option is rook e2, so that, what was the first move I looked at? Oh, bishop c3. Yeah, so similar idea like bishop c3 to get the queen out the way, but this one it blocks the queen. So with rook e2, let's say not queen d1, that hangs the queen, but queen f1. Then we could take on e3, and they can't take back because they'd be pinned, and the queen can't take the e2 rook because the queen is guarding it. So I feel like that might be the solution. So we know if rook e2, queen f1, we can win. But if rook e2, queen anywhere over there, still same thing. So let's look at, and we know rook e2, queen d1, we can take the queen. If they go to c1, c1 is interesting because now they defend this bishop. And let's see, if b1, they hang the queen, and if a1, we have bishop takes a1 as well. So after rook e2, queen c1 seems to be their best move. Can we do anything with the bishop to get them away? Or that would that trade stuff, or would that help us? So rook e2, queen c1, bishop b2. We want to figure out what's going on there, because at least the rook is guarding the bishop on b2. And we knew if after rook e2 on move 1, if the queen did anything else, we think we would be winning. So maybe bishop b2 forces the queen to go somewhere else, and then we can start winning. But they do have more squares they can go to while being on c1. But something like c3 doesn't really help them because the bishop will still be on b2. So it still might be okay. So rook e2, queen c1, bishop b2, and now let's say the queen just goes to c6. Yeah, I think it's got to be this. I don't see any good squares the queen can go to that can stop us from taking the bishop on e3. All right, so they do go to queen c1 as we predicted, and now bishop b2 should be the move. And this time I'm just gonna play it immediately, risk getting it wrong, but I think we solved it because before I confidently played rook e2, I felt that bishop b2 had to be the next move. Okay, now they go back to this square that we looked at before, and we could just take on e3. And remember I said that they can't take back because of the pin, and they can't take the rook because we could take back with the queen. Okay, so that was it, and let's go to analysis board. Okay, so first move, rook b1, played 3,900 times. Yeah, I remember, because like I said, if the queen could go somewhere, but the queen doesn't really have any squares almost. Okay, this is a safe square. But then you fall into this checkmate, sure. But their best defense is actually bishop c1 or rook c1. In either case, they're still black's still winning. So it's like, what is your follow-up here? Like, did you see this position? And then, if so, what did you think would be the win here is the question. But that you want to ask yourself if you want to analyze what went wrong in your thought process when you played this. Because maybe you just didn't see that one of the pieces could block like that. Then that's a whole different typical mistake. But if you saw this position and played it, what was the idea that you did see? It's taking the rook, and then I was gonna say taking the pawn next doesn't really help as much. And I think after this, then this pawn is actually defended by the queen, and winning one pawn wouldn't be enough. Maybe you could think you're gonna win this pawn as well after, but it's like when I immediately saw that this could be a move and that this could defend, it really discouraged me from looking at this further. So it propelled me to eventually look for more moves like and ideas like this that do seem to just work. Like, because then when you see this idea, the first thing you're looking for is not does it work, but what is their best defense? And when you see their best defenses and you're seeing their defenses fall because you see that you still have good ideas no matter what they do, that's how you end up solving these puzzles consistently. But when you play rook b1 and they play this, if you don't have an idea of what's going on and you play it, it could be just like a guess, or you thought about it, you didn't see any other ideas, so you just played the forcing move that seemed to make sense and you hope that it'll work out. And if you spent like 5 minutes or 10 minutes thinking about it and you did that, that's okay. That means it was like a blind spot and you're definitely learning something. But if you like rushed this and you just thought, okay, this is gonna be it, then that does indicate like you should slow down and think about it a little bit more, or at least really try to find other lines when you see that they have such a good defense. All right, so next, I guess, okay, rook takes, oh no, actually the most common mistakes for on move one. So queen takes e4, played 894 times on move one. Queen takes e4. So they just went pawn grabbing. Now, apparently, well, really, it just seems to win a pawn. They can push this pawn, and they have this like pass pawn thing going. They could also go bishop c1. And let's say you take, and now you want to move the rook out the way. This is actually, Okay, what's the material? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It actually looks like it's still winning, which is weird. So yeah, let's see, why would this not be winning? Or isn't it an alt? I don't understand. Okay, so in this position, Stockfish gives rook e2 plus 7, and queen takes e4 plus 2.3. So it actually is a win in a way. But maybe the threshold, maybe it's like so far below the best move that's why it's marked wrong. But actually a lot of moves are in this +2 range. Like rook b1 is actually in the +2 range as well. So this one, I guess it is kind of tricky, but from a tactical standpoint, like I was able to see this rook b1 move and discard it because it didn't seem like it was going to really lead to as much, or maybe that just means I didn't see as much in the position. So what is the computer? How does the computer win this? So they take rook takes c1, and then queen takes c1, and then queen takes e4. Okay, so it does seem like they're just picking up some pawns. I'm gonna check the comments really quickly. Okay, someone's saying rook b1 won't work. No one's bringing up the engine evaluations. But yeah, overall, I would say compared to the best move, these other tries really weren't as like convincing, because this really just wins the bishop at some point, no matter what. So yeah, so this was a tough one, but yeah, but now you can kind of start to see like what's the thought process that you would want to go into it to go deeper into the position and really try to find the really convincing tactical idea. So anyway, that thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.